Super Retro Force.
What's going on, my fellow Belmonts? It's the Mad Belmont here, and today, as you can tell by the shirt that I'm wearing here, we're going to be talking about some horror, but more specifically, how this Castlevania got me into horror. So let's not dilly-dally around anymore. Okay, let's just get right into the video. So it all started when I first got into the Castlevania franchise, and if you don't know how I did that, I did do a video on how I started my Belmont journey with the original Castlevania. That video is right up here if you want to go see that. But I started my journey with Castlevania, and there was something about the atmosphere of the game, going through these different, going through the castle and seeing all this different Gothic Victorian era architecture in the game itself, really just captivated me. It really did. And so I don't at the time I didn't realize that it was because I was, showing an interest in horror. I thought it was just, me showing an interest in the game. But a few years later, I properly got into horror, and that is where the journey really begins, and that's where this video really kicks off. So let's get into how I actually got into horror itself. Now, when I properly got into horror after getting into Castlevania, it was 3 years later. I got into Castlevania in 1999, and I properly got into horror as a whole in 2002. I was 7 years old. It was getting to the end of summer. It was going into my school year, and one weekend I came over to this house that I live in right now. It was my grandparents' place, or my mama and papa, so you're gonna have to deal with me saying that. But I came over here a lot back then, at least once a day, because I loved hanging out with my mama and papa. They were cool people, and I miss them to death to this day. I lost both of them at different times in my life, and yeah, I miss them. I miss their wisdom. I miss their guidance every single day. And I came over here because my mama called me up, and she said, "Brandon," it's my name, "I want to hang out with you. I want to watch some movies with you. I want to introduce you to some movies that I know you ain't seen yet." And I don't know if y'all know this about me, but I am a huge movie buff as well as a huge gamer. And so getting to experience some new movies that I haven't experienced before, and I get to do it with someone that I love to hang out with, yeah, that sounded like a grade A good plan to me. So I did not walk. I ran over to this house, and in the living room, I sat down, and my mama, she had Dish at the time. She had Dish TV. We had regular cable, but she had satellite TV, and she had Direct TV at the time. And so what she did was she went through some of the different channels before she called me up. This was about like a couple weeks she went and did this. She would go and she recorded on her DVR a bunch of horror movies. I mean, a ton of horror movies. At least like 2 or 3 Friday the 13th movies, 2 or 3, maybe even 4 Halloween movies, a few Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Scream 2, freaking Universal Monster movies. She had pretty much everything that someone who's getting into horror needs. I got the whole freaking, I guess you could say beginner's got the horror movies pamphlet, and it was in that DVR. And so I sat down on the couch that's in there in the living room, and she was on the other end of the couch, and we just sat down, and she took me through the gamut. And the first movie we watched, I'll never forget it, Friday the 13th, with, I don't know if you can tell, but my boy Jason right there, okay? And from that moment on, I was in. I was hooked. Because, I don't know, it was just something about that movie, that tension that you get throughout the entire movie that really just hooked me in. And as we're running through the gamut throughout the whole day and throughout the whole weekend, I'm sitting there and I'm becoming more and more and more and more and more of a horror fan. You know, we're going through the Nightmare on Elm Streets, we're going through the Halloweens, then we get to Scream, then we get to things like the Universal Monster movies. And the first one that we watched, I'll never forget, it was Dracula. I think it was on a Sunday night. And as soon as they showed us Dracula's castle, bam! That's when the light bulb went off and it felt like I had just gotten slapped with a freaking taco tortilla. Because I'm telling you, I was just like, oh my god, I have seen this before. It's in these video games that I like to play. And that's when the whole thing just came together. I was just like, no wonder I'm into this. It's because I was already into this 3 years before and I didn't even know it. So yeah, Castlevania was what introduced me to the concepts of horror through those Universal Monster movies. It introduced me to werewolves. It introduced me to vampires and mermen and skeletons and zombies and all the stuff that I had been shown throughout this entire weekend. All of it I had already seen before, and I was digging it back then when I played Castlevania. And so now that I'm watching movies that I know that these games were inspired by, and you know, the creature designs were inspired by, it clicked. And so from that point on, I was just like, yeah, horror, good, very good, I dig it, I'm here, I'm a fan. And so yeah, thank you to Konami for making Castlevania. Thank you to Konami for making this series that got me into my favorite genre of media, period. I love horror, okay? Like, there are two subjects when it comes to media that as soon as I start talking about them, I will not shut up. Castlevania, obviously, you guys know about that. I mean, if you're subscribed to this channel, you know why that's a thing for me. And two, horror. And so from there, from the movies, I got into horror video games. And I was gonna talk about how I got into horror video games in this video, but I'm actually gonna make that a separate video by itself because that is a story and a half. But I did get into horror video games after getting into the movies. And horror is the second biggest thing that I talk about. It's one of my biggest passions ever, and that is going to be the future of this channel here. Is not only am I going to still be talking about Castlevania like you guys subscribe to this channel for, I'm never, ever, ever going to abandon that, okay? I love this series way too much to abandon talking about it. Okay, that is something I will never, ever do, is abandon talking about this series. But, of course, you know, since Castlevania and horror go hand in hand, I figured why not talk about more horror on this channel? And you guys seem to like it. I mean, the two Resident Evil videos that I did, they are some of my best performing videos of the entire year. Okay, I love doing those videos. I loved it. I loved discussing with all of you that were in the comments about that stuff. And so yeah, expect more horror content right over here. So that's basically the story about how I got into horror thanks to Castlevania. Let me know what you guys think about my story down in the comments below, and also while you're down there, let me know what horror type of things that you want to see here on this channel. You know, what type of games do you want me to play? Let me know any video ideas you guys got. I always take any suggestions out there. I would not be able to do any of this without you. So if there's any videos that you want to see me make, let me know down there in the comments. Alright, so that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new around here, consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on the bell notifications, because if you do, you won't miss a single upload. But just so that you know when I upload every single Monday at noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, remember, have fun on the hunt, my fellow Belmonts. I'll see you in the next video, and peace out.
Super Retro Force.